My name is KaysieReeder, and for this week's community assignment video, I chose to watch a documentary called Drugs, Inc. It was a series documentary, so I only watched the first episode for this week, but it focused on drug trafficking rings in the city of Chicago, specifically cocaine and kingpins who produce it. So it started by explaining that cocaine dealers typically use semi-trucks to import drugs into the city, and they hire people to drive the semi-trucks, and then they manage to work them around different border places, and they also manage to escape police barriers that are set up. So one thing that they focused on with Chicago was because when Chicago knows there's a period of the year that's going to have increased drug uses and increased drug trafficking, they set up what police officers in the documentary called a steel barrier around the city, which turns out not to be very effective because it seemed like quite a bit of drugs were getting in. But the kingpins, who were in charge of the transport, obviously, were managing to figure out when and where these steel barriers would be getting placed, and they just worked around them. But a very dangerous part of working around the law enforcement is that gang members from the area were trying to intercept the transports and steal the drugs so that they could sell them for themselves and make a straight profit. They were doing this interception and this stealing using violence, threats, guns, a lot of the times committing murder. And so the kingpins then provided arms to their drivers and their employees, which of course led to more violence and more bloodshed and more gun violence. And to build on the compounding issue of gun violence and drug trafficking rings, the documentary managed to work in that the 4th of July is one of the most dangerous weekends of the entire year for these members of the community, because all of these rivalries that have been created between the kingpins and the gangs, and then between the gangs themselves of different gangs trying to steal the same, of trying to intercept the same drugs. There were a whole bunch of turf wars basically that were created, and they create them over the winter. They build and they kind of stew, and then over the 4th of July they manage to use the cover of the fireworks to get their revenge, essentially. It is one of the most dangerous nights of the entire year in the South Side for precisely this reason. There actually was a quote from the documentary that I liked really well. It said, "When the firecrackers going off, it blends in with the gunshots. There's a lot of executions going down, a lot of orders being made that day." And that was from a gang member. I don't remember the name of the gang. They went through a few of them. But that, to me, really emphasized just how normalized that violence had become in this enterprise, I guess you could call it. Another quote that I pulled out that emphasized this point a little bit too was from a different gang member, and he was talking about more the violence used to get back at somebody who had stolen from his kingpin. He said, quote, "He just stole 60 kilos, so we broke both of his arms and cut off his fingers. He won't never do that beep again," which also managed to say just how normalized violence was in this community. So I'd say from all of that, one of the most shocking things that I realized from this video was just how intertwined this violence is with the need to protect one's business. The drugs and the gangs were really just businesses and employees wrapped up in a whole mess of a situation that was made illegal and very dangerous. But at the end of the day, the top priority for almost everybody involved is maximize the profits, which is honestly, I think, true for most people in the world. You want to make as much money as you can, afford the nicest things that you can, and unfortunately, this is a route that some people take, that they have to take to achieve those means. But a quote that I pulled out that beautifully reflected my previous statements were, quote, "Business means protecting your turf, and it's going to take a lot of guns to do that." And that emphasizes just how violence plays into protecting your business, protecting your employees, and ensuring that your financial well-being is not destroyed, essentially, by somebody else. But I guess I also didn't realize just how lucrative this business can be. So the documentary explained that each kingpin can net about $200,000 in profit just from the 4th of July weekend alone. And for slower weeks, it's about $100,000. Obviously, that is a ton of money. Anybody would love to bring in $1,000 a week in just pure profit and have it not taxed, honestly. But that's obviously an incentive for gang members and criminals to enter into the drug trade. It's also an incentive to have lower quality drugs, to not give the amount of drugs that, I'm not sure if I should say that you should be giving, but that you're promising you're giving. And this can definitely create a public safety hazard. Additionally, the criminalization of the drug makes it, I wouldn't say difficult to get, but it makes it more difficult to get than if you could just walk into the store and buy one. And it makes it a lot riskier to sell. So we're increasing the price on both of those fronts. And the higher the price goes, the more dangerous everything tends to get. But there was another quote. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I have to pull it up. He said, if you get caught with 1 brick or you get caught with 20 bricks, it's the same charge and you're gonna do a life sentence. You might as well go hard. So I think that this placed a great emphasis on how our criminal justice system works to not only foster part of the system that is creating these dangerous situations, but it's allowing it to be done on a mass scale that becomes obviously incredibly lucrative, but also incredibly dangerous. The more money you put behind something, the more willing you are to defend it with your life, with people who work for you's lives, etc. So, wow, I've talked for 7 minutes. Okay. So the last thing that I noted from the documentary was just how drug dealers view the police. It was less of a mortal enemy kind of existence that you'd usually see in the movies, or kind of what I expected, but it was honestly kind of a sense of indifference. So one member even stated that, quote, "The detectives are so busy they don't even have time to come up to the bodies. If the cops don't give a beep, why would we?" And so this looked like, to me, this combined with everything that I just discussed, honestly, emphasized that our legal system needs to be changed to protect everyone, not just those that we're forcing into criminality by limiting their access to alternate pathways of success, but we need to ensure that the people buying the drugs are safe from health issues, from it being cut with things that they didn't know are in there, that the people selling the drugs are safe from the gun violence, from the racialized prosecution that they're probably going to be facing. And essentially, it's just, this is an aspect of our legal system that needs to undergo major reform. Thank you.